Hello, this is Richie from the Metal Cell podcast. I've got H from Acid Rain and Joe from Gamma Bomb. How are you, lads?
Pretty good.
Very good, thank you very much.
How does it feel to have released one of the best thrash albums of last year? And did it get to as many people as it deserved?
It feels fucking great, man. It really does. I'm going to come across all Lars Ulrich right now, but I'm probably the biggest Acid Rain fan there is. I mean, I've been curating the band even in the years when we were not around and not doing anything and had no intention of coming back, and we haven't come back because we didn't reform. But I'm a fan of the album. I mean, I listened to the whole thing probably 2 days ago from beginning to end, and there's bits on it and little odds and ends that just still make me smile. I'm incredibly proud of it. Yeah. I just think it's what Acid Rain fans deserved, had been waiting for, and before it came out, I kept using the phrase that I was very, very quietly confident. And that's because what I couldn't say was, you're going to fucking love it. It's great. I didn't want to sound like an arsehole or Rob Flynn. Same thing, really. So yeah, it's awesome. Did it get to the audience it deserved? No. But no one's album does now. No one. I mean, Gamma Bomb are going to release an album soon-ish, maybe this year, maybe next year, and that won't reach as many people as it should do, because no one's album reaches as many people as it should do, because there's just a fucking ton of shit out there on the internet that it's very difficult to get heard above. I mean, when we played Glasgow on one of the 5 dates we've been able to do for the album.
That's another side of it.
That's another story. I had a guy come up to me and go, I knew nothing about you lot being back until a week ago, and I like, he heard the new low somewhere or something like that, and it was like Acid Rain. He was like, that can't be Acid Rain. So he looked us up, saw that we were back, bought a ticket for the gig.
Was he using a Nokia, one of those old flip phones or something that you never heard you were back?
But you know what? It's a prime example of the fact that depending on how you get your metal news, and depending what your circle of friends is like now and all the rest of it, because we've got quite an old crowd, then there's a million ways of not finding out about stuff. Yeah. And I mean, not everybody's a geek like me. Not everybody goes on to Blabbermouth and flicks back through the pages until they get to the page they were at last time they were on Blabbermouth, and then catches up on all the news. Most people just go to the front page, what's the news, that's it. So, it's on the flip side, the reviews have been amazing. Landing in like top 20 charts, and people saying that it's the best Acid Rain album of the lot. I mean, I couldn't have predicted that at all, because I didn't think there's any way that anything we did now would rival what people have, what emotions and memories they have attached to our original material. So for people to be saying that is just absolutely, it's awesome. It's awesome. And it's going to have to last as well, because there's not going to be another one for a while.
What do you think, Joe?
It's a really, really great album, and like I would say, it is probably the best one, just because it's very it's I don't know, like from start to begin to the end, it all has the same vibe, and the singing on it's great, and the production's great.
Production's
some
brilliant.
of the other albums in the past that I've loved, like Obnoxious, had lots and lots of ups and downs and like different stuff going on. One of the things that's probably surprised me the most was Paul the guitarist. His stuff is great. His riffs are really, really awesome, so and I think that was everyone's concern with Acid Rain come back. It was like, oh fuck, if Kev's there or not there, are the riffs not going to be there? But the riffs are there in abundance,
Yeah, I mean, you hit your nail on the head there, and I mean, Paul is really he's every Acid Rain fan's friend. Because as he puts it, he's got 1 foot on stage and 1 foot in the crowd. I mean, Obnoxious is in his top 10 favorite albums of all time. So it was, he was just on it. He's on the money and on his game big time. And I mean, just when it comes to recording the album, not only was he like ultimately tight and amazing in the studio, he actually recorded the album at home, the entire album at home, to Mark's drums that had been sent to him when they were edited, and then went into the studio when it was his turn and recorded the whole album again.
Yeah.
So it's like he just knew what he was doing at every stage, at every turn, the layers, everything.
Yeah, it shows.
And it really does. Yeah, I mean, I'm just absolutely chuffed to bits with it.
How much?
And thanks very much for that, Joe. I really appreciate that, because I know how much of a fan you were of the old stuff. So yeah.
How much preparation did you put into it before you decided to head for Wales?
I think it was about the night before. We just thought, fuck it, should we go and record an album? We started writing at the beginning of 2017. So once we'd done the second comeback single and the headline tour, it's kind of like, right, next stop is the album, because we've basically got as far as we can without new material. And then gigs after that just became an exercise in trying to rearrange the same songs a different way. And so in 2017, we started throwing demos into a pot and voting on which ones we wanted to work on. And then we did about 10 days pre-production, 10 days writing in London. And then that broke the back of it and brought a lot of the songs together. Then I put vocals on everything by the end of the year. Last song written for the album was Ripped Apart. And then we went in August 2018. Went in, started recording, and it was finished. The mix was finished, I think, about March 2019, something like that. Looked for a label, and pretty much all told us to fuck off. And then we found Dissonance. Oh, well, all of a sudden I was just like, hang on, I know Steve, and he had Candlelight Records, and he liked Acid Rain then. I wonder if he still likes us. And he did. And typical Acid Rain, he didn't ask to hear any, he just asked me if it was any good, and I said, yeah, I think it's fucking brilliant. And he went, oh,
was there any reason why he wanted you on Dissonance rather than on Candlelight then?
Yeah, because he doesn't own Candlelight. Candlelight got sold to Universal about 2-3 years ago.
Okay.
And not a lot has really happened with that label since. So it certainly wasn't a case of going back to the label. And yeah, so out it came. And yeah, I mean, they've been great. There was no basically just I'm kind of turned up with the finished package. Here's Mark Wilkinson artwork. I was
just going to ask about him. Yeah, how did that come about?
Bumped into him in Bloodstock VIP, 2017.
Yeah.
We were. Was it 2017? I might have been a bit later. I'm really not sure. Probably. So. He has a neighbour called Al Barnes who used to play guitar in Venom all those years ago. He's on the Primeval album and stuff. And I've stayed in touch with Al. I've known Al for years. And I knew that he lived in the same village and was neighbours with Mark Wilkinson, because I've often annoyed him about this. And he brought,
sorry, H, just for those that don't know about Mark Wilkinson.
Oh, don't worry. I'll get there.
Judas Priest, etc.
I'll fill them all in.
Cool.
Yeah, you're doing it with a professional now, mate. You only have to ask 2 questions, and then when I finish speaking, say thank you very much. Good night. So I bumped into Al, who introduced me to Mark, and straight away I was thinking, like, right, okay, I don't want to be all over the guy, because I also knew from watching a Facebook update that Fish had done that Mark was taking a step back from work he was doing because of health reasons. And I thought, right, okay, I'm definitely not going to be full on Howard and get in his face and force him to say yes right now. So we just chatted, and Al was saying, he was at our Bloodstock show in 2016, and he was saying, oh, you know, you wouldn't believe it, man, it was amazing, it was incredible, you know, they're a great band and all that. And I was like, yeah, we've got a new album coming out, you know. And Mark was like, oh, right, that's interesting, but to be honest, I'm actually trying to get less work at the moment, not more. I said, look, I totally understand. It would just be an absolute honour to have you do our artwork. And I explained that Marillion are the band that made me fall in love with music. He did all of the early Marillion covers, like, you know, Script for a Jester's Tear, Fugazi, Misplaced Childhood, Clutching at Straws. He's done all Fish's stuff. He took over from Derek Riggs and does all Maiden stuff. So he did all the, you know, Book of Souls and everything. He did Priest. And he was saying, well, he said, but, and Al was saying, oh, they're different. They've got a different kind of attitude and all the rest of it. And I said, yeah, you know, it's like, we have a little bit of a sort of punk ethic in there. And as well, he was like, oh, that's interesting. If you want something with skulls and things like that, you know, I'm not your man. And I was thinking, I've seen Book of Souls. You clearly are. But anyway, I'll let that slide. As one last desperate attempt to try and engage him in the concept of doing art for our album, I said to him, "Oh, we've done a cover version of a Suzanne Vega song as well, and she really likes it. So hoping to get her on the album." And he went, "All right, which song?" And I said, "Blood Makes Noise." And over here, right, unless you say Marlena on the Wall, Luca, or Tom's Diner, no one knows who you're talking about, right? Yeah. And most of the time, you either have to go da, 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 or you have to go, "My name is Luca." You know what I mean? But Mark's reaction was, "Oh, good song," and I was like, "Oh, right, you know it then." And he was like, yeah, I'm a bit of a fan. Would you send me your version? I was like, yeah, no worries. No. About 2 weeks went past, and I sent him the demo. And you know, thought nothing of it. And then 15 minutes later, I got a reply saying, "Howard, this is absolutely brilliant. It takes me back to my old punk days. I absolutely love it. Forget everything I said. I want to do the cover of your album."
Fuck me. Brilliant story.
There you go. Good old. You know, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Suzanne Vega, who I'd never met, never spoken to, got us in with Mark Wilkinson.
Jesus Christ. Just goes to show, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the thing is, that's not the end of the special guests. On Within the Woods, the join us backing vocals are supposed to be Max Caballera, and the second solo in Within the Woods is supposed to be James Murphy. But James wasn't able to do it because he had a load of paid work, and we certainly weren't going to pay him. And Max was unable to do it because, I got the thinnest of yeses out of him when he was on the podcast. He was like, I was like, "You do loads of stuff." He was like, "Yeah, I'm a metal slut." And I was like, "Right, well, if you're whoring it around, get on our album." And he laughed and goes, "Okay." So for me, that was enough. For me, that was, "Yes, Howard, I will definitely do a guest appearance on your album." So I sent an email to Gloria Cavaliera and went, "Look, this is the story. This is what happened. You know, what's up?" And she sent an email back going, "Oh, yeah, that's a really funny story." No. Which is fair enough. I did actually want to say, can't you just get him to shout "join us" into a phone? That'll do. But
yeah, it's a very difficult woman, so she is.
Well, I've known Gloria since before she was together with Max.
Back in the
No. I don't know. It doesn't make a great deal of difference, I've got to be honest.
Oh my God. I'm glad you brought up Bloodstock. Did you actually curate 2015 with, like, I mean, the lineup in 2015 was Reanimator, Lawnmower Death, you know, Onslaught, Nuclear Assault, Dark Angel, Death, and Overkill. Had you something to do with that?
Well, if we'd been something to do with it, we'd have been fucking on as well.
Well, you were on. You did.
But, I was on for one song. Yeah. I was on for one song.
I tell
you what, though, that's we were offered headlining Sophie Stage that day, for 2016. We were offered the slot that day.
Okay.
And that day was when the set list for Bloodstock was finalised, because as soon as he said that, I was like, right, that's when we bring back Thoughtful Sleep. That's that's when we wheel out the big guns. Which we've only played it a few times since we've been back, and I would love to play that song more. I mean, I enjoy singing it, and because I can sing it way better than I used to, and the music section at the end just makes me fucking lose it every time. But
I saw you guys doing it in Manchester, but I can't remember. Did you have like samples for the keyboard stuff and like that kind of thing, or what did you do?
Hang on, what originally? The original lineup?
No. When you played it recently,
would that have been at the Rebellion?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. No, it was just acoustic guitars, and then smashed it through after that. And it's got a dead stop live.
Yeah. Okay.
So it finishes. Okay, yeah. You know the two accents that go mother and father.
Yeah.
We leave the last note hanging, and it finishes on those two accents again, and that's it.
Yeah. Good tune.
Yeah. Like as I said, what are your thoughts of you playing Bloodstock that year, 2016? It was a mental. It was. I think the Gene Morris finished the Sophie that night, from what I can remember. I was drunk,
we'd
of course.
our support band Mastodon finished on the main stage.
That's right.
And then they came over and said, right, it's time for the headline act, and yeah, we were the last band on the downside of that. And Joe will know exactly what I mean, because this is a typical person in a band thing to say. The downside of that awesome show was that as soon as it finished, nobody could get back into the arena to buy any merch because the arena is shut. So we absolutely smashed the tent with 5,500 people in it, and loads of people wanted to go off and get that go off and get that shirt, and they couldn't get back into the arena. But look, that's neither here nor there. It was an amazing show. It was an absolutely amazing show. And I loved it. What I loved about it most of all was the fact that I don't know, we weren't completely and totally responsible for how amazing that show was, because before we went on, we could hear people giving it the old acid rain. We had a big cheer when the backdrop went down, and it was just like, it just felt like we were playing a big club show. Were you there, Joe? No. Were you there? You were there, Richard?
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
I don't know about it. It just felt like a big club show. It didn't feel like there was 5,500 people in a massive fucking tent.
It did, man. It was like being up in a fucking terrace at a soccer game, man. It was just chanting.
I mean, typical me, right? I, for some reason, in between 2 or 3 songs, wanted to give grief to people who were outside the tent looking in. Like, so I was giving them grief, like,
you did actually, yeah.
You lightweights, what you stuck out, get it, man. And it wasn't until I found out afterwards that they couldn't get in.
No, fucking couldn't get in.
But it's like that. But that tells you everything you need to know about us as a band. Never would it cross my mind that they wouldn't be able to get in because it's so packed. It's like, nah, there's always room at one of our shows for everybody, really. But yeah, it was amazing. I mean, it's the best gig I've done with the band since we came back, and the best gig that I did with the band before first time round. For me, is probably April 1990, McGonagall's in Dublin.
Fuck off. You're serious?
Yeah.
I thought for a second, Joe, my heart kind of missed the beat there, because I thought he was going to say Cork, and I was just going, this is where I cry.
Cork's a Henry's.
So close. Yes, sir.
Henry's. Mate, Cork's a Henry's. All I remember is us turning up and thinking, fucking hell, are we playing here? Where? There was not as bad as Drogheda. When we arrived there, they were still fucking making the stage. They were literally there with wood and hammers, going, "Don't worry, boys, it'll be ready in a minute for you." I'd be like, I'm not fucking sure about this. Kev went through it halfway through the set, but to be fair, Kev had been trying to get through it since the minute we started playing. He just wanted to get through the stage.
Fucking hell. So McGonagall's was your favourite before that, yeah?
I can shut my eyes and I am fucking back there, mate. I'm back there. I can feel the sweaty walls. They're doing the PA dives, and it's like, and the thing is, like, doing PA dives back in those days, there was no risk. There was no. Basically, people were packed in so tight, they had no option but for it to be there when you land on them. They couldn't fucking move.
They couldn't move.
It's like now, you know, I'm up there like 5 minutes trying to coordinate everybody. But McGonagall's, man, was just unbelievable. Brilliant show.
Have you played, has Gamma Bomb has surely played McGonagall's, is it?
No, sure. I think it went the way of the dodo, like about 1993 or something like that, man. It's
okay.
It didn't last too long after the kind of, like, if I'm right, I think Ozzy Osbourne actually rehearsed for a European tour in McGonagall's and he did 4 or 5 warm-up shows, and Def Leppard used to do the same in there, do all their warm-up shows for their tours and stuff. But you could correct me if I'm wrong on this. I don't think that they had a license to sell beer. They're only allowed to sell wine or something like that at the bar.
I cannot remember, because we had a rider and our rider was fine. So
yeah.
But I seem to remember a lot of people being pissed.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they actually bought one single drink inside the venue.
But you know, the weird thing is
with cider out the back,
especially with like Drogheda. Like, Acid Rain are probably the last big band ever to play in Drogheda, you know? Like, it's not a city like Cork or Derry where occasionally you'll get someone coming around. Like, it's pretty small city in Ireland, you know?
Rural.
They are doing gigs there again, because somebody asked us, did we want to play at a metal fest that they were trying to organise there, so we definitely get back.
I remember playing Derry as well, and I've since been told that we were the last metal band to play there as well, or at least the venue that we played in.
Yeah, I remember seeing like Destruction and someone else, like Lamb of God or someone up there in like about 2004, and there was like 20 people at it or something.
No,
like
you're
that.
right. It's Glasgow Pavilions I'm thinking of. There's never been another metal show at Glasgow Pavilions since we played there in 1989. We left our mark, and that's been the end of that, really. So.
She played Dublin in 2017, and you were really disappointed with the turnout. Yeah. And you were fairly vocal about it as well.
Yeah. That doesn't sound like me.
Do you think the Acid Rain, the likes of me now, I'm nearly 50 now, next year, do you think the Acid Rain crowd have kind of grown older and you've kind of missed the catchment gang of thrashers that we'll say that Joe's gang have, you know?
No, not really. I mean, I think the ideal combination is to have both.
Definitely, yeah.
You know, ultimately, our fan base, as a rule, pretty much have disposable income.
Yeah, that's the truth. It's really is like guys in their late 40s and 50s and stuff. They'll go and spend $100 on the merch table, whereas guys who come to our gigs will ask you for beer. Like, they're like, "Can I have some free beer?"
Don't worry, mate. Obviously, we still get that. Yeah, that doesn't die. But yeah, you're right. You're right. We will, and we'll get people. You know, we'll get people saying they need. Have you got a card machine, because they want to spend as much.
I spoke to you about this before, Hard, and basically what the deal with that Dublin show was that. Xentrix had been over supporting Overkill, and then Xentrix had done their own headlining show and then came back. So that this was like the third time that they were playing in Dublin within a year. Each time
with Shrapnel as well.
Yeah. So it's kind of weird. It's like, whenever you guys went and did your own headlining show, it was really great. People aren't necessarily, people are looking saying, I've seen Xentrix enough times, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, no, I absolutely get that. But I mean, I was disappointed, but part of the reason I was disappointed was that I remember what Ireland used to be like for us back in the day. It was the first time we'd been there for loads of time, and also the guys in Centrix were going, "Oh yeah, it's still mental over there. It's going to be insane. It's going to be great." Now, there's everything that Joe just said, which absolutely. There's also the fact that there was just about every decent band on the planet was coming through Dublin in the next 2 or 3 months. There was Fear Factory one side, there was Megadeth the other, there was just bands all day. And also, if I had been in the Zentrix camp, I might have actually got word out to everybody that we were going to be playing brand new material from our already recorded brand new album, as a way of getting it across to people that this is why, because you've always got to give people a reason to come and see you. The minute you just think you can put a poster up and do a gig is when no one turns up. You've always got to have a reason. There's always got to be something. You know, if you look at every tour we've done has either been off the back of a new single, a new release, or that just we're back in general, or obviously an album. But there's got to be something. And also, not only has there got to be something, but you actually have to tell people. They can't read your minds. Yeah. So the first anybody knew, including us, by the way, that there was any new material going to be played by Centrix or anything like that was on the first date. So maybe if that information had been out there, it might have made a difference. To be honest, probably not, because people were financially stretched. But I was vocal about it because I was disappointed. And the thing is, as well, is I think I ended up, I went onto I think the Metal Island forums, which don't exist anymore.
Correct, yeah.
But I was in there just going, look, because a lot of people were saying, oh, when are you coming back? And it's like, well, I don't know. Whenever you actually turn up, that's when we'll be back. But loved it. Loved being over for the dates that we did. I mean, the beauty of the shows that we've just done. We played London for the album coming out. We played a TP in Scarborough with Diamond Head. So we've done London, we've done Yorkshire, we've done Glasgow, and then we've done Dublin and Belfast. And it's like, and everybody else has been completely ignored. So I actually think that's pretty cool. And it was great being over doing Belfast and Dublin again was great. And looking forward, because we should be, plan is, see you all in February.
Yeah, Clang with Coroner and Candlemas. I'm glad actually Candlemas are involved, because I can dovetail nicely back to the time you toured with Dark Angel in Candlemas.
Ah, yes.
Can you tell us a few tour stories there?
Messiah is a top man. We instantly hit it off. Singers tend to do that.
Did Messiah just kill him?
But the thing, I mean, that's not just saying that. Guitarists do that, drummers do that. I mean, you've got whatever it is in common. But yeah, top man, and he used to have his big. He used to wear the priest's habit, the whole thing. And just before, he always used to he used to tie it with a rope, and he used to get the rope, and he used to have to try and tie one end to something. And I was in a dressing room one night, and I went, give that here. So he gave me the end of his rope, and I held on to it. And then what he did, this is really bizarre, mime it, and if you're just listening, tough. And he'd just go like that, and he'd turn his waist really quickly away from the rope to try and tighten it. So I was like, right, okay, I'm stood in, like, right, go on then. And he did it, and he was like, oh man, this works great, wonderful. We should do this every night. So I went, yeah, all right. And so every night backstage, you're like, H, where are you? And I was like, I'm coming. I then leg it like round the back of the backstage area into the Candlemas dressing room. He's like, grab the rope. Tying him up, and off he goes.
Fucking brilliant.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we hit it off with them big time. We had this is it. We always get on really well with the bands who people think we won't get on really well with. Like we were fucking really good mates with Sabbath, because Sabbath could not have been more different to us. So there's no rivalry. There's not even a little hint of, yeah, your album's a bit fucking good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, we're so far apart on the spectrum that there's and at that age as well, you're still a bit competitive. And I say that age, I still am, but we had a blast with Candlemass. We used to have, and of course, not a band that you would think, you know, no. Acid Rain and Candlemass again, polar opposites. We used to have, they used to come side stage and the whole band and watch us every night and just crack up. And they'd only leave. I am so jealous of you right now, Joe. They'd only leave when actually no, they watched whole set, yeah, because it was us. They were following us. It was us, then Candlemass, then Dark Angel. Anyway, they used to watch our set from side stage and just like have an absolute blast and love it. And there was a couple of the band who were really, really like very into our band. And it was like, you know, they'd be in the dressing room just going on about how jealous they were that we were able to just go out there and just have a blast. And there was just nothing on, you know, no do's, no don'ts. Like, you know, you want to walk into the crowd, whatever, just whatever, anything goes. And they'd sit in our dressing room like, oh, well, we could never do this. No, well, this is not allowed. I better not speak too much, otherwise I'll end up getting us kicked off. get us kicked off Clang Festival, having not seen the guys in Candlemass for like 30 years. Have you listened to the album, the new album? It's brilliant. Love it. We love it. It was in my top 5 favorite albums. Absolutely brilliant and an amazing vocal performance.
Oh yeah, and there you go.
He's not singing in the band anymore, though, is he? Or Messiah Macaroni?
No, Messiah isn't. But the new vocalist is the old vocalist.
Yeah, the guy from the first record.
He's brilliant, man. He's brilliant. I had him on the podcast as well. Yeah, really nice guy. And yeah, just fantastic album. The Door to Doom. That's it.
Yeah, and who would have thought then Andy Sneap would have went on and played in Judas Priest?
Well, now there's a tangent. I was WhatsApping with him when the news came out, and he was like, I sent him a message and just went, dude, very pleased for you. And he was like, straight away, he was like, I know, it's amazing, isn't it? I was like, yeah, but it's fucking awesome. I mean, I couldn't have been more happy if it was fucking me. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I've known Andy so long and we were mates right from back in the day. And Andy ran Sabbath, I ran Acid Rain. We were always on the phone to each other. I was at his fucking surprise 18th birthday party. So, you know, yeah, exactly. And I was just so pleased for him. And we were just messaging straight away. I was going, this is fucking amazing. And he was like, yeah, this is fucking amazing. And then he said something that I can't say on the podcast.
Okay.
But I will, I'll definitely tell you once we're done here, exactly how that exchange went. But yeah, I mean, I'm just so pleased.
He really is. And you know what? It's such a testimony to, you know, ever since he was a kid, before he was 18, he knew exactly how to get an awesome guitar sound, and that led him to having a fantastic career in production, which led him to, you know, like his guitar chops were good enough to not only give him a career as a producer, but also to get him into Judas Priest. Like, who the fuck? Well,
the thing is as well, he's one of those people that look at it and they go, "Fuck me, Andy Sneap, what a life!" Yeah. Sabbath, then producer, then Judas Priest. Oh, you know, that's the life, isn't it? If anyone had the slightest inkling of how hard he has worked, all of these people that's their dream life and their dream job would quit after 20% of what Andy has done to get where he is.
Brilliant.
I mean, sacrifices made, hard work, all the rest of it. It's the same old thing when you talk about football. You know, there's amazingly talented footballers who never even make it as a professional. And there's people who are a lot less talented, but are a lot harder workers that get to where they're going.
Yeah, it's true.
And you know, you think it's bullshit when you're younger. You just think, no, it's all about talent. It's all about, it fucking isn't, man. It's not about talent. It's about not taking no for an answer, and it's just the grind, you know? As the one and only Jamie Jasta says when he's not selling hard-on pills, it's all about the grind.
The thing about the grind, though, dude, is... sorry to break in there, Richie.
Go on.
But I think that, like, for a lot of bands, especially bands around our kind of level, hard, it's kind of like, if you can do the grind to the point where your name is known, then that's whenever you need to start making like the intelligent decisions about gigging, like, you know, because you could gig 200 days of the year and be thoroughly miserable doing it, you know.
Yeah,
and it's not gonna, absolutely. It's not going to increase your crowd massively, because say there's only so many people in the world who could possibly like either Acid Rain or Gambomb, and it's like trying to reach those people, you know.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, and we need to do a fucking trek through Europe together. Yeah, we need to do something. And thanks for putting that dude onto us. But yeah, it was we're talking about Joe kindly put me in touch with a promoter who was looking at getting us to do a co-headline tour throughout Europe. The co-headliner was a cool band, and it fit, but then it was 5 bands all on one tour bus, and that's not really happening. That means somebody's sleeping in the chemical toilet, frankly. So yeah, I just want to sorry, Joe, just want to go on about, you're on about seriously talented guys that had to work their arses off as well, and another one of your friends, Gene Hoglin. Yeah, man.
Do you want to talk about Gene there as well? Because I mean, that man has put in some hours.
I mean, Gene's amazing. I mean, the funny thing is that when I toured with them, Gene and I just seemed to gravitate to each other. We spent hours debating stuff because it's like, I don't know. Prime example, I went to see him when he was playing in Testament, and they were supporting him on Monomath, and I'm on the guest balcony, and Gene's like, "Okay, dude, I have to do the voice when I do, Gene. Okay, dude, I'm showering now. I'll be up. See you in a minute. Okay, dude." I was like, "Okay, no worries." He's like, I'm on my way. And it's like, fucking hell, you know, he's just such a nice, respectful. I mean, look, you know what I mean, Joe. People put you on the guest list, and it's like, yeah, you're on the guest list, and you might see them and you might not, but you got in. But with Gene, it's like, you're on the guest list. You have a AAA pass. Here is a picture of your AAA pass. Here is a picture of your name on the guest list. Here is the name of somebody that you can ask for if anyone fucks with you whatsoever. And then, you know, turn up. So I go to Monomath, he comes and gets me. We sit down in the Testament dressing room. No one's there. We sit down, and I go, "So, Trump?" And he looks at me and he goes, "Yeah, Brexit, man." I was like, "Yeah." And we spent the next hour and a half talking about Donald Trump and Brexit and the differences between our two countries and all the rest of it. And that is the kind of shit that we did for 5 weeks through Europe. And that's pretty much why it was Gene and I downstairs and everybody else upstairs, because people used to come down and literally just sort of stick their heads there, and we'd be talking about the Second World War, or we'd be talking about, like, you know, politics or whatever, and people would be like, "You all right, guys?" And we'd be like, yeah, and they'd be like, "Okay," and off they go. I mean, when I saw him in January when we were doing the podcast, we spent half an hour talking about stuff that is way more important than anything we talk about on the podcast, which is personal lives. And I'm certainly not going to delve into what he talks about with Gene, but he had some stuff going on that clearly was quite major, and we spoke about that. He's just, do you know what? He's a friend. He's a friend of mine who lives in the States and has a job that takes him all around the world. It just so happens that he's also the Atomic Clock and an incredible thrash metal drummer. But, you know, first and foremost, he's my mate that I've known since I was 19. you know. So I've known him over half my life, and we've always stayed in touch. Even fucking MySpace, you know, he messaged me when he heard my father had died, and you know, you know, he's a proper human being. Gene is. He's just a proper human being. Doesn't matter, you know, what industry you meet people in. He's just one of those people where you go, yeah. And I knew when I was 19 that I was pretty much, yeah, I'll be in touch with Gene for the rest of my life, I would have thought, even at that age. Yeah. And I still am. And, you know, he's just, yeah, he's probably my favourite person in metal apart from me.
And I just want to talk as well, early life for Howard, growing up and stuff. How did you get into music?
Well, there was a cassette in the family car. I don't remember how it got there. I don't know if it was mine or whatever. But on one side was Queen's Greatest Hits, the proper one. And on the other side was Day at the Races. And so there was that as a. I mean, you can't have a better sort of grounding in music. I remember my parents saying to me, "What is you know?" They said to me and my sister, "You can have one. We will buy you a record that's in the top 10 at the moment or the top 20. You can have any record you want." Just a little 7-inch single. So my sister got what was a number one at the time, and I can't remember what it was. And I asked for Blondie, Heart of Glass. So that was the very first record that I ever owned. The very first record I ever bought was Sabbath's Greatest Hits, because my sister's friends who were a bit older than me were kind of into metal and I was getting into it. And then, funnily enough, one of my sister's boyfriends introduced me to Marillion, and then it was just like game over. And then it was Show No Mercy, Kill 'Em All, Melissa, Merciful Fate were a big band amongst, you know, at those times. Merciful Fate fit in with everybody else because they were just doing something that was so different that it just seemed to get attached to thrash. They clearly weren't thrash, but they were weird, and people into metal didn't like them, which meant that people into thrash sort of kind of took to them as well. And it was great because what I remember was I'd been listening to like Sabbath and stuff, and my sister's mates all going like, "Oh, listen to this and listen to that, and more, Live Evil, Dio, and is it still Black Sabbath? Yes, it's just a different singer. All right, and then, but I got to turn around to them and go, check this out, and like playing them stuff like Kill 'Em All and stuff like that, and they all fucking hated it, and all of a sudden it was like, well, I found my music, because it's like, well, I've been liking the music they've introduced to me, and it's great and it's wonderful and it's led me to this point, and I really like this stuff. So I want them to hear this stuff I really like because they played me stuff I really like, and I played it to them. They didn't like it, and it was like, oh wow, this is really cool. This is really fucking heavy. This is my metal. This is my music. They've got they've got all their Sabbaths, their Rainbows, their DCs, and all the rest of it. Fine. I've got this. I've got Kill 'Em All. Oh, right. I've got Show No Mercy. Oh, I've got Killing My Business. Shame it sounds shit. I've got, Fistful of Metal, and all of a sudden, what about like our music?
I was going to say, what about singing then, man? What was, apart from being into Freddie Mercury as a young man, which I think most singers... That's an interesting turn. Who's a front man, there's usually some Freddie in there, but...
That's an interesting turn of phrase there, Joe, being into Freddie. Never got the chance, love, never got the chance.
But so what about that then? How did you start off playing the bass or something like everyone else, or were you always a singer or what?
I think I was always a singer. And I say I think. I mean, I'm a 50-year-old man trying to recall when I was like 5-6 years old. So I probably asked my mum, to be honest, and I don't think she had a clue. I remember her saying, "Oh, you came home one day and said you were in a band," and I said, "Oh, really? What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm the singer." And she said, "Can you sing?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Oh, right, okay." And she knew she knew better than to ask super cocky, confident Howard to give her a fucking whirl right there. But I had sung in a school choir in primary school,
Oh, right,
and I did a solo in one song as well. So I must have had a half decent voice, and that just stuck with me. And I think music, discovering my own music, and of course, like the vocal influences in the early years, the influences are Jello Biafra, Ronnie Dio, Fish, and obviously very early, like every other person who was not singing in a trad band, So,
Sean Killian from Violence is someone who comes up a lot whenever people talk about Acid Rain and your voice, particularly because it's quite off the wall compared to most other sort of like either James Hetfield type singing or more high pitched singing. It's kind of, as you said, Jello Biafra. It's that direction, isn't it?
Well, thank you very much. That's a load of compliments all at once. B, try and get this is a great chance for a plug. Try, everybody, to listen to a very recent episode of Talking Bollocks, my podcast, where myself and Sean Killian get to have a chat about how shit our vocals are. And I even say to him, I said, look, I have been described as very much an acquired taste. And he was just laughing, going, yeah, that's me, man. I was like, yeah, I know. When anybody quizzes me about my vocals, you're my excuse. I was going like, well, Violence, sure, yeah. And,
it's so prevalent around, like, a lot of your contemporaries who, apart from, say, Onslaught, who had a singer, a lot of the other bands who were, a rhythm guitar player singer like Zetrix or Reanimator, there's a lot of bands out there who have that kind of sub-Hetfield type singing, and it's I find it very restrictive, I much prefer it whenever a band has got like an individual singer instead of a guy who's just going to try and copy James Hetfield,
Well, or get a guy who's going to try and copy James Hetfield, and then get a guy to try and copy the guy to copy James Hetfield. Yeah, what can I say? Funnily enough, I asked Sean a few questions which I already knew the answers to, although I didn't know that at the time. I asked him a few questions, and his answers were the exact same answers I would have given, which is because I said to him, like, your voice, how did it happen? How does it come like that? Or was it like me? You just open your mouth and there it was. And he was like, yeah, totally. That's exactly it. And funnily enough, Sean is a huge Jello Biafra fan. And that's something that we really have in common. And I love like machine gun delivery. I love to try and get as many words out as possible and make things as difficult for myself as possible. And Sean is exactly the same. He's like, yeah, man, yeah. It's just like, it's almost like we like thrash, and we wanted to do vocally. We wanted to try and do what the rest of the band were doing, and everyone else is playing 100 miles an hour. So why can't we fucking sing at 100 miles an hour as well? And I kind of, that's where it sort of all came from. But it's very it's very weird for me to find out all these years later that there were people who gravitated to the band because of my voice and all the rest of it, because I got criticised in 2 Kerrang reviews. Well, let's be honest, fucking hammered in 2 Kerrang reviews, which was Moshkinstein and The Fear. Now, they are in the deep distant past, but I was 18 and 19 when those reviews came out, and they absolutely ruined me. I was just, I didn't know it now, but I didn't know it at the time, but I was just racked with anxiety. I was absolutely falling apart. And unfortunately, there was at least one member in the band who was quite pleased that I was getting these reviews, and that never helps. No. And so all these years later, to kind of have these wonderful reviews for my performance on the Age of Entitlement, and for people to be sort of, saying over the years since we've been back, people have been saying, nice things about my vocals, and yeah, it's kind of amazing to hear, really, all these years later. I always knew I could sing. I always knew that I always believed in what I was doing. But funnily enough, I didn't know until I met Fish, who I had a lovely conversation with for the podcast again. And he said to me, well, the thing about me, Howard, is I'm a writer who can sing. I'm not a singer who can write. And I just said, yeah, I know, I'm exactly the same. And as those words came out my mouth, I thought, oh, right, okay, yeah, no, that's true. Oh, right, shit, I've just figured that out. And it was only through him saying it and me just going, yeah, exactly. And then literally like, oh my God, right, yeah. So I've always thought of myself as a writer who can sing. I mean, I write comedy and then I perform it. So, so I'll write lyrics and then perform them. But I would definitely say that I'm just a much better singer now than I ever have been. And I mean, it was a pleasure, an actual pleasure working on the vocals for this album, just demoing them. But then recording them.
Like, I guess one of the big things about the record is there's loads of that kind of Axl Rose Use Your Illusion double-tracked vocals. So there's like low H and high H, and it's got a really cool, it's the same effect that you hear on, Killing Is My Business, the song, where there's a high and a low, Dave. I thought it was really cool. Right.
Do you mean like, by that, do you mean like there's an octave?
Yeah, so there's a double track on the vocals.
Yeah. I mean, there's loads of doubling. But there is actual octave tracks as well. Which is the Necronomicon part of Within the Woods. There's about 5 or 6 different voices going on there, which again is like during the recording process. I was working with Jason. We were doing bits and pieces, and this happened a few times, and we were working on stuff, and Jason would say, "Oh, right, okay, yeah, there's a really he said there's a really nice room for a harmony in there," and I was like, "Yeah, there is, isn't there? Where is it?" And we'd both sit there going, and every time he'd get it, not me. And he'd be like, and I'm like, yeah, that's going to sound lovely. And he said, right, okay, go in the booth and do that. So I go in the booth, and I go, what is it again? He go, I go, okay. So he put it on, and I go, and he go, yeah, spot on, come back in. And it was literally like about the end of the week. And Jace said, like you're really natural at like doing harmonies and stuff. He's like, I've only ever had to give it to you once, and you just do it. Have you always been like that? And I was like, not a fucking clue, mate. I said I didn't. When I became the singer who can just hear a harmony once and then go and record it in one take, I don't know when I became that guy. It's not like I've been doing a shitload of singing. But it was just working with him was awesome, and had been on The Man Who Became Himself, and my head was so full of ideas for this album because we'd worked on it for so long, and I'd got to demo the vocals, so I was just the ideas were always coming. So all of the stuff that you hear on the album, like where there's like multiple little voices and all sorts of bits and pieces. I'd say probably 90% of that was me and my ideas and what I brought to the table, and about 10% of it was probably Jace as well, because Jace amended some melody lines, and just like literally like I was doing a melody line where I was going up, and he would go, actually no, don't take it up, just hold it, and I'd be like, right, okay, and then we go, ooh, right, well if you're going to do that, what about doing this? And yeah, we just literally just had fun. And it was awesome.
It might stand to actually now, if there ever will be another Acid Rain album, you can certainly add that to your, what would you say, box of tricks? Repertoire.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I'm really, really hoping there will be another Acid Rain album.
We all are, yeah.
But, you know, as I've said to everybody, the way things are at the moment, I mean, a lot of people have been like, oh, you're writing a new album? No, we're not. Because... as an album cycle, we're supposed to be on tour. Yeah. Well, it's supposed to be on tour. It's like you're just in that cycle, and just because we've suddenly got some spare time doesn't mean that we all really want to write a new album. What do you want we to do? What we want to be doing is being out there playing the new material. Yeah. The whole point of writing a new album is that you're bored of the one that you've been playing, so you want some,
Do you think, Joe, because Philly is similar enough in vocal style as well with his verbal assault, and he certainly can harmonise as well. Do you think Philly went through that period when his voice was shot and then came back a stronger singer because of it?
Yeah, and that was a huge thing for him, basically, just from like absolutely not knowing how to sing. And like at the start, our singing was a lot more kind of Motorhead, Jello Biafra kind of style, right? And then as we got more into kind of Flotsam and Jetsam and Age and Steel and stuff, we really kind of wanted to incorporate that. But Philly was like, I remember when he was a kid, him doing Child in Time, Deep Purple and stuff, and you could do that kind of stuff, but he didn't have any sort of control over it. So also, the whole reason he hurt his voice wasn't necessarily too much to do with his singing. It was just partying, like drinking all the time and smoking and shouting, like especially whenever you get a load of Irish people together in a room at 3 a.m, there's a lot of shouting. So that's what it was. And like there were about 3 or 4 gigs where over the course of a year or two where I had to sing him and stuff like that while he was either getting the surgery done or recovering and stuff. And like you would be the worst person ever for it, Howard, because like after he had the vocal nodules taken out, he wasn't allowed to make any sound whatsoever for like 2 weeks. And so he said the worst thing about it was trying not to laugh, like, and he was just sitting slapping his knee because laughing was the worst thing he could possibly do for it. But yeah, I don't know. Like I think that he's definitely a better singer now than he was. But I think a lot of that as well is just experience. Same as Howard, like, you know, whenever you're older, you have a way better idea of what you should be doing. Whereas whenever you're 21, like you don't know what you're doing, like, you know, at all.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, and I think Philly does an awesome job as well. I really do, and he sounds great. And to go through what he's gone through, I mean, I can't even begin to fathom what that must have been like. And the mental side of it is just like you've got the physical side of it. That's bad enough. Then you've got the mental side of it as well, which is just torture. So yeah, it happens.
So like Alan from Primordial, like. This has happened to me once before as well, where your voice just disappears from underneath you. And they were playing Bloodstock and come out, and just after the first song, his voice just disappeared, and he couldn't speak at a third of this volume. You know, never mind sing.
When I interviewed Fish, he said one thing that he wouldn't miss was the pressure of and he said when he was in Marillion, he said we were supposed to be doing a gig, and he said it was a big gig, you know, City Hall gig, something like that, and between sound check and the doors opening, his voice went. He was fine in sound check, and just as they were going to go to open the doors, he was like, he couldn't, he had nothing, gone.
Jesus.
And he said he'd actually seen the support band the previous day. They were having to pull out because the singer's voice gone, and he so he could see them out front of the venue and all having a chat, and he was just like, God, I just know what conversations being had and how bad, you know. He said you have no control over it, but when it's your fault that no one is having fun tonight and no one is getting any work done tonight, and it's your fault. You know, yes, your voice is gone. There's nothing you can do about it, but it's still your fault.
Yeah,
that's how you feel. You know. So yeah,
I mean, a lot more sympathy. See, if you see a guitar player like in Back to the Future where he's got a busted hand, can't play a Johnny B. Good, people are like, "Oh shit, you've busted your hand, you poor person." Whenever people see a singer who's lost his voice or has got a cold and can't sing, like Erasure were supposed to play in Dublin and they cancelled because he had the cold. But people are just generally very upset about it, you know. They're just like, he is a skiver. That man would not work on batteries, you know.
Yeah, but this is exactly the same as well. And the other thing as well that is the other thing that works against singers is often people will have had this experience where it's like, oh, where's the singer? Oh, he's in a room on his own, or he's on the bus on his own, or he's doing this, and people are like, typical singer, shut themselves off from everybody. Yes, so they don't fucking speak, because the only way to not speak is not be around people. It is a lot easier, and not speaking is called resting your voice. And to that extent, and talking about partying and stuff like that, on the last tour we did that we came over to Ireland, I hadn't drunk alcohol, smoked a cigarette or anything like that for about 2 weeks before we went away, and for the whole time we were on the road as well. I wasn't drinking and I wasn't smoking, because can't do that really anymore. I also went and had a shed load of singing lessons with a brilliant teacher who's on YouTube. She's called Beth Raws, and she's just absolutely awesome. Showed me loads of little tricks and picked out some bad habits that I'd gotten into, which were really bad. So yeah, so I mean, you know, totally buzzed and jazzed.
You never really, like, you never sound as if you've struggled. You know, the way, like, there's some people that, you know, even very gifted people like Don Dokken, where it's incredibly delicate, you know, and like he can end up sounding like crap overnight. Or other people like, say, Dave Mustaine, or even like Matt from Evil, where like to have a serviceable voice is incredibly difficult work for them, you know, and it's very temperamental voice, you know.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because I always consider myself to have a very temperamental voice. It might seem like that from the outside, but I have all the same sort of stresses and anxieties that everybody else does. I'm really, really looking after things a lot better than I used to. So it's all about, you know, wearing a scarf, making sure I've got a snood for the tour, you know, keeping your throat warm, not breathing cold air, and just trying not to talk as much as well, and you know, not do interviews. And it made a big difference. I mean, my voice, I felt, was slightly ropey by the time we got to Belfast, but to be honest, it like, there wasn't any times where I've gone to hit a note and it's gone like, you know, there was none of those horrible cracks, because that's the worst thing to experience as a vocalist, is when you know who's going to get loads of coronavirus whenever the festivals start again? Backing vocalists, because singers are always bringing their own microphone and mic, you know, thing. And anytime you ever see bass players singing or whatever, they're always just singing into the same fucking mic all day, you know. Well, there's going to be a lot of disinfecting of mics going on, I'll tell you that, mate.
Do you know what H you were saying there about anxieties as well? Did you feel much in relation to going from being the singer of Acid Rain to doing stand-up comedy?
To be honest, it was just night and day. The only advantage I had over other people going to stand up for the first time was that I felt comfortable on stage.
Right.
Other than that, it was just completely starting all over again. But it's something that I'd wanted to do. I mean, I was class clown. I was kind of doing a version of stand-up between songs and Acid Rain. I'd always been funny. I knew I could make people laugh, but there's knowing you can make people laugh and being a bit of a class clown and learning how to function as a stand-up comedian. And it's a complex old world, the world of stand-up. But you know, I love it. I mean, I do more stand-up shows than I do comedy shows, easy, every year. Or rather, I don't do more stand-up shows because I don't do any comedy shows. I don't do any shows at the moment. But yeah, I mean, stand-up has always been there for 25 years, you know, of my life. So it's almost kind of like, basically, stand-up is the wife, and Acid Rain is the mistress.
Yeah.
So did that start up then after? What was the name of your post Acid Rain band that you had for?
Strange Thing.
Yeah. So what was the transition then from? Was that something that you did just directly after Acid Rain before starting into comedy, or what? Yeah.
I had a load of lyrics and I had no songs. And I went to a party at that name again, Al Barnes' house up in Newcastle, and some mates of his turned up, and I was wearing a Fishbone t-shirt, and I had load of songs in my head, you know, lyrics written. So anyway, I turned up. These guys turned up, and apparently they were in a band that was really good, and they didn't have a singer and they didn't have any lyrics, but they had music. And obviously I had what they wanted and they had what I wanted, and we had a bit of a chat. And I said, well, look, send me a tape and let me see if I can figure out some stuff. So I figured out some stuff, went up there, and we rehearsed, and it was just like, yeah, this is awesome. So I did that for a couple of years. We did a couple of demos, didn't work out. and literally we had a band meeting. That's the end of the band. Following morning, I got a letter that had arrived on my doorstep from a performing arts school in London saying, you've been accepted onto our stand-up comedy foundation course.
Ooh.
Our first ever. And I was like, cool. So literally music business that day, comedy that day, and that was it.
Oh.
What was the what was the circumstances around the end of Acid Rain? Because obviously the two songs that end up were supposed to be the Jokes on You EP, which end up not happening. Yeah. Was the idea to do an EP to test the water before doing a full record, or how did it end up? Because I know the guys were pretty much leaving to join Cathedral, and this was like sort of mid-90, 91, sort of start of 91, wasn't it?
Well, all I can say is that that's news to me, because as far as I was concerned, as far as Ramsey was concerned, as Kev and Mac were concerned, you know, Acid Rain was our thing and what we were going to go on to be. Nobody went on into Cathedral or even thought about Cathedral until Acid Rain was done.
Right. Okay.
And there was some interesting bits and pieces again, which I can't say, but I will offer. No, I mean, we wrote those two songs. We wrote those two songs, and you know, Music for Nations financed the recording of them to see where we were going and what our direction was. But our deal had finished with them, and they're two kind of pissed off, angry songs.
Yeah, they're very like kind of addressing the situation that the band are in.
Yeah, you know? Yeah, exactly, and not subtle at all, as usual.
No.
Yeah, and those two songs are aimed squarely between the eyes of Music for Nations and our management. Probably, to be honest, more our management than the label. And that's, you know, proof of that is the fact that the label ended up releasing those songs anyway. And yeah, it was just to kind of like, well, you know, fuck you, this is what we're doing. We know you won't like it. And it was almost like sort of committing suicide, really. It was almost like. Did
you guys try and then hook up with like Heavy Metal Records or someone after that, or was there just once the deal was that was it?
There were deals on the table from, I believe, Heavy Metal and FM, and there might have been somebody, and we were like, do we want to go to, as far as we were concerned, do we want to take a step down and go and put an album out on some tin pot label? Or do we just want to knock it on the head?
How old were you at that stage, Howard?
Sorry?
How old were you at that stage?
20.
Fuck me, that's so young, man.
Yeah. No. So we just went, no, this is done. And again, I'm so glad we did, because the bizarre thing is, if you go back, and history will prove this is exactly as I say it, we announced that we were splitting up and Acid Rain was no more, and that was in Kerrang. The following week, the next edition of Kerrang, Sabbath announced that they were calling it a day, and then there was a 2-week gap, and then Onslaught announced that they were calling it a day. Mm. So that also gives you is a window into the world of why we split up. It wasn't just us, you know. Yeah. It was. But
it's to do also a lot, I think, man, to do with the sort of support that you're getting, because I think that the fact that bands like Reanimator were in Europe supporting Dark Angel and brought out another album, it didn't do very well. Xentrix were in Europe supporting Tankard in '92. It's kind of like, I think that there could have been a future for Acid Rain if your management had been, or if you had some support. And like, every band knows what it's like when they're like, this is extremely hard work and no one cares, so we're just going to stop, you know?
Fair point. But you've just mentioned two bands who audibly changed their sound and their style. And
it didn't do them any good, did it? Like, they're all broken up after making an awful album.
But what they did was they basically wrung the final drops out of their career, and that's not what we wanted to do. And that's why, you know, we did the opposite. So basically what they did was they started doing some new cool stuff, and hey, give this to the label. What do you think, guys? What do you think? Yeah, there's a future in it. Whereas we were like, hey, here's 2 songs about how you're all cunts. I mean, you know, we didn't, you know, I see where you're coming from, Joe, but we hadn't exactly, you know, done a great job of smoothing the path to being able to put another album out by releasing those 2 songs. Well, not releasing them, but by, you know, recording them and sending them and saying, hey, what do you think to these?
Do you know, when you were doing the stand-up, Hitch, did you come across many metal fans in the crowd?
Well, I obviously I still do. I still do stand up, and occasionally somebody will come up. And funnily enough, I did a show about 18 months ago, and it was a big sports hall. There's 250 tables, so you know, a lot of people. Yeah. And absolutely fucking smashed it. I mean, absolutely properly brought the house down, to the extent, and this doesn't happen very often, to the extent that they've got dragged back on stage to do an encore, which is just nuts. So I came off stage, and all the comedians are going like, oh, that was really cool, and all the rest. And it's like, this is the thing about a comedy dressing room, is just like, it's full of individuals who are either have already been on and gone, or the only reason they're in the dressing room is because they're on after you. So they've got no interest in talking to you about how your set went, what it was like, or anything like that. And so it like, this is what I miss about being in a band. You know, you come off stage and it's just like, oh, what about this? What about that? And yeah. And it's like, there you are, people in the dressing room come in, yeah, oh, great. And comedy, it's just not that. Comedy is just not that. So you have the whole experience is in here. So you come off stage having absolutely smashed it. And you come off and you're smiling, and everyone goes, oh, that was really good. Oh, well done. You know, oh, that's great. And that's it. That's all they want to say. Yeah. Right? We're done now. Shut up. But inside, I'm like, this was fucking awesome. This was brilliant. And I was like buzzing, right? And the other comedians are going, you know, literally like that, starting a conversation about the price of carrots or something. You know, anything is better than allowing me to mention my set again or anything like that. There's a huge knock on the dressing room door, and the venue manager goes to the dressing room door, and I just hear this voice going, I want to see Howard. And this bloke's going, and he's going, there he is. I go, let him in. And I don't know who it is. But obviously this guy knows who I am. Yeah. So he comes in, he comes into the dressing room. He gives me a massive hug, right? And he gives me this massive hug and just stands there going, close your mind to controversy. And it's like, the comedians are just sat there going, what the fuck is this? So I have to turn round and say, and this, you know, I have to turn around and say, right, okay, so, you know, making no reference to the fact that I've just absolutely smashed the arse out of the gig and basically ruined it, because no one's going to do that well now, because that's how it works. When someone has a show like that, no one else is going to get to that level. So and this guy comes in and starts shouting gibberish, and everyone's looking at me like, what? And I'm going, so I just try and shut him up. So I just give him a big hug and go, all right, mate, yeah. He puts his arm around me and points me towards the other comedians, and they're going, do you know who this fucking guy is? I'm like, mate, yeah, they've known me for years. They know who I am. And they're like, no, but do they really know? This man is a fucking thrash metal legend. And they're all sat there going, what? And one of them is really into music. She's into music, and she's like, really? And so the guy focuses on her, and he's going, yeah, it used to be in fucking Acid Rain, UK legends. And she was like, I think I've heard of you. I think I've heard of you lot as well. And I was like, all right. Fuck. And so now it's like this his comedy dressing room has just become Howard Central. Hello, welcome. Are you a fan of me? I know I am.
Brilliant story.
Yeah. So occasionally people will turn up, and sometimes it's just like they'll rock up and they go, "All right, Howard, I brought a CD. Would you mind?
Give it the old horns.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Nice to meet you. Yeah. But this guy just like on the worst possible night for every other comedian in the room, apart from me, just bursts in, and not only have I absolutely smashed the comedy night, now this guy's in it shouting at them, telling them all that I'm a heavy metal legend.
We were on about Steve Hughes, Joe, weren't we, a few weeks ago?
Yes.
Of Mortal Sin fame. Yeah. Did you cross paths?
No. I've never done a show with him, which is bizarre because I've done shows with just about everybody. I mean, Catherine Tate started out in stand up. Yep, did shows with her. Yeah. Harry Hill, Al Murray, you name it. I've gigged with them all, and but bizarrely, it's a massive circuit, and some people you meet and some people you don't. Unfortunately, I never met Ian Cognito as well before he died, and I'm gutted about that because he was an awesome comic, and I mean equally insane off stage as he was on stage. But I'd love to have worked with him. But it's such a shame.
And about as well, people dying, man. Riley Gale as well. I want to give a shout out on the show.
Yes, well, speaking of dying, wow, that was just insane.
It cut us all.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird as well. I guess we've got to wait to find out what happened.
But certainly, do you think that he realised how much of an icon he was slowly turning into? I think this man you'll see him on T-shirts for years to come. But did he know, amongst all the hurricane that was following the band, there was a lot of expectation on their new album? But I mean, you, the Sun, the Daily Mirror, RTE over here, it was everywhere. He's dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it goes to show how big, like Power Trip, how big an impact they've made. I think probably easily the most popular thrash band since Municipal Waste, in terms of new bands and stuff, and an unbelievably cool singer, and they're like a kind of classic example of a band who they're like a mix of Doom, like the band Doom, and hardcore and thrash, but they're just a band who has an amazing sound, and it's just the worst thing that could possibly happen. The poor fella,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it'll all come out. I mean, I wouldn't like to speculate without
no. It's just
without knowing actually how he died either. I mean, it could have been coronavirus. It could have been. I mean, the fact that everything is so quiet, unfortunately, I think we all are really dreading hearing the news that we think we already know, and that it's be another singer who's taken his own life. Yeah. I hope not. I really hope not. But I'm 50. Keith Flint was 50. So cross your fingers, everyone. Hopefully this time next year, no more me.
Who would you get to replace Howard? But it's totally awful. I don't know. I think it's mad whenever you see things like that happening to people who they're not really our contemporaries or Acid Rain's contemporaries, but people who are in the same kind of pond. It's like Mike from Mobile. It's just these things happen, and it's just so out of the blue. It's very sad.
Well, the thing is, I'll tell a story about my good friends in Billy Talent. I had a friend of mine I put her on the guest list to a show in Belgium, and the tour got cancelled. And she sent me a message, and she was like, "Oh man, I'm having a really bad time at the moment, and this is terrible news. Oh, I'm really gutted. Oh, and it's like moan. And I resisted telling her why the tour was cancelled, and the tour was cancelled because Aaron, who is Billy Talent's drummer, who has MS, went to his brother's birthday party, and it was his brother's 40th, and his brother had a heart attack and died in front of his family at his 40th birthday party. And that was 2 weeks before they were due to go away on tour.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people in the public look at people doing that job and think, fucking hell, that's amazing. And it's like, yeah. And Neil Peart in Rush, who's also died of cancer, lost his wife and his daughter to cancer. Just, it's like we're all just people just doing a job. It doesn't get, you're not granted immunity from the shit that everybody has in their life just because you're in a band or anything like that. And that Billy Talent thing was like, and to have somebody who was moaning, and feeling a bit down, and I was like, you've got no idea why this has been pulled, and it made your troubles look like fucking nothing. And yeah, it's horrible when these things happen, but bands are made up of people, and bad shit happens to people, unfortunately. But usually the good people. So if shit is happening to you, the good thing is it's probably because you're a good person. Yeah, if everything's going really well, you're a cunt.
But it's the power of social media as well. People think they actually know you through social media.
Yeah, true.
And they expect certain things, expect your time, expect you to reply to every fucking comment, and
I absolutely. But to be fair, mate, I usually do. So
you're unique.
I've created that expectation. I've created that expectation. I've created that monster, which I wish I hadn't, to be honest. But that's the way it is. But the best one was 2 nights ago. I got a message to the Acid Rain Facebook page, right? Which I'm going to read verbatim, right? So this is the usual classic. Now, I have had people from companies. I've had somebody who managed bands' social media, and I gave him the login and said, go and have a look through our social media and all the rest of it, and have a look in the messaging and all the rest of it. And he said, I have never, ever, ever seen anything like this.
Jesus.
And it's basically because we're the kind of band we are, we've been around as long as we are, people just basically see us as their mates. So they'll message whatever's in their head at whatever time of day. Now, this is my favourite that I've had recently.
I hope the fuck we don't know this person, Joe.
well, to be fair, I'm not going to name him.
Okay.
Let's just call him Nick. Right? So, Nick Gresty sent me this message. Right? It says, out of the blue, he's never messaged a band before. Hola, can I just confirm that the Manchester show on the 19th of September is still going ahead? Cheers. Right, okay.
Oh my God.
Please look at the event listed on the Facebook page, which has, in caps, postponed, right? Also, on the Manchester Rebellion page, it has the Acid Rain show showing as postponed. Also, Manchester Rebellion have taken their website down as well at the moment.
Oh, fuck me.
Your event says postponed, but the venue say it's happening. So which is it, yes or no? So I just responded and said, who have you contacted at the venue? Because the best way to deal with people is basically catch them up in what they've said. So, really? The venue says? Who said that then? No reply. But it's like the temptation. Funnily enough, I was out with mates at the time and I was telling them about this. And the temptation, my mates were like, how do you not just message back, have you heard there's a pandemic, you thick cunt?
Yeah.
I don't know. But clearly, just from the way the whole message is constructed, for some reason, he's either got the arse with us, or he's got the arse with the venue, or he's got the arse with life in general, or he's pissed, or whatever it is. But I don't see the point in kind of adding to the shitness of his day by one of his favourite bands giving him grief and pointing out that he's a knob. I just thought it'd be more fun to ask him questions until he stops sending messages.
Come here, I'm gonna leave you go. I just want, right, if you were to curate, right, your own festival, give me 6 bands that you'd love to have on it.
Okay, Acid Rain and Gamma Bomb, obviously.
You're down
right there, and doesn't matter. In fact, just those two. For any other 4 bands, just those are the only 2 that matter.
It's very diplomatic.
I would say
you'd have to get Gene over, surely.
Well, I'd say Metallica because you haven't put a time frame on it. Metallica with Mustaine.
Nice.
Milo Goes to College era Descendants. Dead Kennedys with Jello.
Yeah.
Farewell to Kings era Rush, and Acid Rain and Gamma Bomb.
There you go. Cool.
You know what though, man? If we were playing at that, we'd be on the same time as Rush. And I'd be punching you in the head, being like, why did you do this to us?
Mate, I'll tell you what would be happening if that was the festival, yeah? You're first on, we're second on, and then it's and then it's a couple of deck chairs side stage for the rest of the day.
Yeah. That'd be lovely.
Lads,
what about you, Richie? What would you have for your 6 bands?
Sorry, I have an idea. Mm-hmm. We could actually get 5 bands on, and we'll just have one band opening called Acid Bomb. That has 10 musicians. Yeah, that's nice. 10, and we just go Gamma Bomb song, Acid Rain song, Gamma Bomb song, Acid Rain song. We only play 6 songs, 3 Acid Rain songs, 3 Gamma Bomb songs. We're all done within half an hour. Deck chairs, other bands.
Yeah, it will become virtual reality soon, and we'll be able to experience all that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to leave you go. Howard, thank you so much for coming on the show. Much appreciated.
Pleasure, mate. Anytime.
Yeah, it's great, man. And Joe, as always, thank you.
Cheers, bud.
He's a great co-host.
Cheers, dude.
I just want to say, is there any other news people should know about Acid Rain? There is the Clang Festival. Anything else?
Oh, yeah. Well, yes, we're playing Clang on the date in February.
Yeah.
With Candlemas and I nearly said Corona.
27th of February.
Yeah, 27th of February. Candlemas, Corona, and Acid Rain are playing the National Stadium in Dublin. So come along.
Excellent stuff. Again,
cool, man.
That's it, lads. Thanks a million for everybody listening. Listen to Richie in the Metal Cell. Cheers.
Cheers, bud.